Kurt Cobain died on a day that looked clear on paper. There was a date, a location, and an official explanation, and for a brief moment, the world felt relief, because the human mind hates uncertainty. But some stories don't close cleanly. No matter how many times they're explained, something still feels unfinished. This video is not here to give you an answer. It's here to show you why the questions never stopped. Because when a story is truly over, people move on. They don't revisit it for decades. They don't analyze it frame by frame. They don't keep asking the same questions 30 years later. And yet, people keep coming back to Kurt Cobain's story again and again. Not because they want mystery, but because something in the narrative never fully settles. After his death, reports were released, interviews surfaced, and photographs were published. Everything seemed to point in one direction. And at the same time, it whispered something else. Inconsistencies. The kind that don't scream, but linger quietly in the background. Take the timeline. According to the official narrative, everything happened within a specific window of time. A clean sequence with a clear beginning and a clear end. But when that window is examined closely, gaps appear. Not minutes, but hours. Hours that were summarized rather than explained, and details that were acknowledged but never explored. Then there is Kurt Cobain's state of mind in his final days. Yes, he was struggling. Yes, he was dealing with addiction, and that cannot be denied. But alongside that pain were plans, unfinished projects, future conversations, and ideas that didn't sound like someone who had already decided everything was over. Pain does not erase contradiction, and being in a dark place does not always point to the same ending. Over time, one sentence became the foundation of the story. He was in a dark place, and while that may be true, it is not complete. Human beings can suffer deeply and still imagine tomorrow. They can feel exhausted by life and still resist finality. Reducing complexity into inevitability makes tragedy easier to accept, but it also removes depth. Another unsettling part of this story is the silence that followed. Not just silence from institutions or media, but from individuals. Some people spoke years later. Some never spoke at all. And some, when asked, always stopped just short of finishing the sentence. Silence like that isn't empty. It's heavy. And when many silences align, they form something larger than coincidence. This is how Kurt Cobain became more than a person. He became a symbol, and symbols are easier to manage than human beings. They don't contradict themselves. They don't evolve. They don't surprise us. But real people do. And when a life is reduced to a symbol, complexity is often the first thing to disappear. What followed his death was not only grief, but myth-making. His art began to be read as prophecy, as if the ending was always written into the music. But art is not confession. Expression is not intention. Lyrics are not blueprints. Hindsight rearranges meaning to make chaos feel logical, and logic is comforting. Yet comfort does not equal understanding, and this is where the story begins to resist closure. Because the official explanation answers the event, but not the life. It provides structure, but not resonance. And humans are remarkably sensitive to that difference. This is why new generations continue to feel drawn to this story. They sense the imbalance, even without knowing every detail. They feel that the explanation is neat, while the life it describes was not. And when something feels too clean for the chaos it contains, it leaves residue. This video does not exist to replace one certainty with another. It exists to acknowledge the discomfort that never went away. Sometimes answers don't haunt us because they're wrong, but because they're incomplete. And incompleteness creates tension. Tension invites curiosity, and curiosity keeps stories alive. So here we are, still talking about Kurt Cobain, still circling the same questions. Not because we want a different ending, but because we want a fuller understanding. Because if everything were truly settled, we wouldn't still be here. And maybe the real question isn't what happened that day. Maybe it's this: Did Kurt Cobain really disappear, or did he fade slowly while everyone was watching?